Welcome to the Greater Culture Podcast, where we have conversations about how to elevate the quality of life through movement, nutrition, recovery, and mindset practices. Welcome to another episode of the Greater Culture Podcast. Your host, Brad Marshall. Today, very excited to be joined by Allison Nepaulsingh. She is the owner of Move Bodywork, as CrossFit coach as well. So she does all the things with helping athletes achieve their movement goals through not only coaching them in classes, but also helping them recover. So I'm excited to dive into some great topics with her. So Allison, thanks so much for spending some time with me on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm so excited, and I've just been excited to follow you for the last few years. I'm so proud of you.
I
Awesome.
Thank you for that. It has been so much fun to collaborate and get to know others who are also on the path of starting their own business and working to grow and trying to help other people and figuring it out together. It's one of the things I love about this small business community and how all of us are in it for really the same reasons. And that's why I'm really excited to hear your story of how you came to start the company, how you found your way into it. So tell us a little bit about your journey and your story of how did you get to be where you're at right now?
Well, I think ultimately it all kind of comes down to CrossFit, like genuinely. I started at Oak City CrossFit about, I think it's 2013, so 11 years ago. And from there, I moved to CrossFit Goliath. And from there, I met Vincent Bounds from Myology, which was still WOD Body at the time. It still is so funny to me because I remember seeing people coming out with like these marks on them, and I was just like, what is this? Like, what is going on? And I remember busting in his room one day, and I was like, what are you doing? What is this? But I just found it so fascinating. And there was something he said to me one day where he was like, I can do the things that PTs can't because of insurance reasons. And I was like, anarchy, I love this. Like, and so that really kind of spiraled me into a love of, I already had a love for anatomy, the way the body moved. It always felt very intuitive to me. And being in CrossFit, I mean, you're constantly watching movements and all of that. So honestly, I give it up to CrossFit. I give it up to Vince, like, for being my biggest inspirations for getting into what I am, what I do. And through getting better, like watching people's mobility, helping their mobility, all of that, I mean, it just showed me like I wanted to coach. I wanted to like dive deeper into it. And I made a recent like Instagram post that said, you know, I have 3 jobs, 2 main ones, which is coaching and Free to Move, but I don't feel like I work a day in my life. I recently went off on my own and started Free to Move Bodywork. It's coming up on a year in May, which was exciting and scary, and I didn't want to do it at first because it just seems like a lot, you know. And so, but it was time. It was try something new, try in a new location, and just collaborate with other people. And I don't know, it's been exciting. It's been good. I still get to see all my friends. I think all my clients end up being my friends in some way. So,
that is one of the things I love about working with other folks is you build these relationships, you get to see them hit some goals and progress and build confidence and build strength. And so you get really excited about that. And it sounds like for you, you had your own personal experience with CrossFit of helping you. And you're like, how do I help others experience this as well? Not just in the classroom or in the class environment, but also like to help them recover and move better and feel better. And that happened through WOD Body and Myology. And then you figured out, hey, I would like to do this for myself. So tell us a little bit about what do you get to do on a day-to-day with Free to Move Bodywork? Because some people might hear that and be like, what does that entail? What does that mean? Yeah, because we hear so many different recovery practitioners in the space. So what do you get a chance to do on a day-to-day basis with Free to Move Bodywork?
So I think probably the thing that people will be most familiar with is hearing the term sports massage. But I think body work is a much better term for the style that we do. or I do. I say we. I'm a one person company. But no, like we work a lot more with cupping and scraping as like the main modalities. But you move with us. We are getting you geared back to working in a better place or back to what you were. Just however we can help you. I mean, it's usually like hour sessions and moving through. I mean, you know what's going on with that. But we are doing a lot more focused work, just to help you move better ultimately. And it's talking afterwards of, hey, maybe these movements might help you a little bit more. Like, hey, let's work on engaging this. So I get to switch from, you know, bodywork therapist hat to kind of coach hat within the uh, same area, I guess.
Yeah, I can
It's a lot of
imagine
fun.
how yeah, I can imagine how having both of those roles is really helpful because when folks walk into a CrossFit class, for some, it's the first time they've been moving in that way in a little while. And all of a sudden, they're asking their body to get into some positions that maybe they've lost or maybe are unfamiliar with. And it's kind of like, can I reclaim the ability
Yeah.
to get into a squat or push something overhead? And your body's like, whoa, 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 you haven't done this in a while. You might want to back off. So you start doing it and you maybe get a little sore, fatigued, your muscles feel like tighter, and so you as a coach can see what that looks like in the class environment. But then as a specialist in the body work side of the house, you can help people to reclaim some of those positions, feel better, recover a little bit faster, specifically through sports massage and some of those different techniques. So we know what it looks like to become a coach in CrossFit. You go to the certification process, you get a chance to engage with athletes. How does it work when you are interested in the bodywork side? What did that look like for you, the training, the education to be able to practice and help people in that way?
So, unfortunately, massage school is geared towards mostly just getting you into a spa environment, right?
Hmm.
Um, the type of work that I do is not, it's not taught within school. So that was a lot of continuing education. So I mean, I've taken plenty of like scraping courses, cupping courses, and doing it more on the actual like science side of things as opposed to, you know, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know, the earthier kind of releasing toxins from your body. Like, nah, we're gonna be moving. Let's get, because movement is key, right? And I think you hear that constantly across the board, especially in like our line of work. It's over and over. Movement is key, and so it's like, how do we optimize your movement and all that? So yeah, it's constantly learning. And that's in many different ways. So it's, yes, in those modalities, taking our continuing education courses, but it's also paying attention to everything around you. And that is within movement classes as well. So even uh, like just learning even within CrossFit, like just doing the L1 and stuff like that. I don't know, like everything just piles together, and it's just staying on top of it, staying on top of what is um, not trending. That's not the right word to say, but as science grows, you grow with it, kind of thing. So,
I've certainly noticed that in the space as well over the last, close to a decade now of some of these trends, like you said, all of a sudden you see somebody on TV or a fellow athlete show up and they've got these big circles on their back or on their shoulders. You're kind of like, oh, that's interesting. What is that? Or you hear people talk about, dry needling or these other saunas and cold plunges. So there's all these recovery tools we have that are at our disposal now. And it's kind of figuring out like what works, what doesn't work. And it sounds like for you, getting your foot in the door with just understanding basic massage principles and how to work with somebody and how to use that to help them. But then from there, if we're looking at sports massage, that's a very unique or specific type of massage. So, how do you describe that to folks when you think about body work and sports massage compared to what they might have in their head of like going to the spa for the day and getting some kind of a Swedish massage? What are the differences in a sports massage body work versus your traditional spa like one?
so spa, you're gonna find, and I am never gonna talk bad about it because I think sometimes it's what our body needs, right? So it's more for relaxation. It's to calm your body down. get your nervous system to come down, versus doing sports massage, body work, however you want to look at it. We are we are going to make things move and feel better, right? There's a time and place for everything, but I think the thing is I'm not here to fix you, right? I'm here to help you. I'm here to assist you to move better. But this is you, like, you have to follow through now. And like, I'm very adamant about that. Is like, I'm going to get you to a better place. But I'm not going to fix you. It's going to be probably a little painful. It's going to be uncomfortable, but we should be moving better. And so now from here, it's on you. Go strengthen, go stabilize, go do whatever it is. And if you need help getting to that point, then cool, we can talk further about that, of what might need to happen from here and go from that. But you don't get that in your traditional like relaxation or anything like that. It's just like, we're here to feel nice, which I said, like, it's not a bad thing because sometimes our nervous systems need that. But I always say with like sports massage, hey, we're going to work together. We're a team now. Like, let's do this. And now let's talk strategy. Let's talk, how do we go about this? So I don't know. That's how I view it.
Yeah, it's funny because when you mentioned, I think the first and biggest piece when talking to an athlete or recommending sports massage or getting some body work done is that it may not be the most pleasant experience in the moment. When you start working into some of the muscles and tendons and some of the joints, and you're asking them to either move in a certain position or feel a certain way, there might be a little bit of pain associated with that. And even some of the techniques, some maybe generate a little bit more pain than others, but it's helping our body sort of reclaim, hey, this is how you're supposed to move. This is how the muscles are supposed to work together in tandem. And this is the positions we'd love you to get back to. And sometimes there's the body fights that just a little bit.
Yep.
How do you work through that with folks? Because in the moment, it's always like, oh, I don't know if this feels so good. Like, I want you to stop. But then after, it's like, oh, this is actually pretty nice, and like I feel way better. So how do you talk and work people through that process?
That's where the coaching kind of comes in again. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's about cueing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're constantly cueing people, and I cue people in breath work. I cue them in, hey, drop this, think about dropping this part of your body into the table. So I think for those of you who have had their subscaps dug into, which I call one of the mini soul touchers, the one that's in your armpit, um, a big one, like, I find is like, they immediately are like, what are you doing? Get out of my body.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not fun. It's just like, hey, okay, think about dropping your shoulder into the table. Here, think about dropping your elbow. Now, and it's just constant. And so then now it's bring the breath, like the breathing into it. The more you can breathe, the more your brain like can relax, you can calm. And then all of a sudden your muscle just goes, and it's like, oh, oh, so you mean if I breathe, it's gonna be okay? Weird, weird. So it's cueing them. So it's just like, all right, I want you to inhale for a solid 3 seconds, hold it for two, exhale, and then hold. Like, and so it's giving them things to focus on, giving the brain just something to do and distracted from what's going on. And so yeah, I mean, it kind of comes down to coaching, but sometimes it's like, sometimes you just got to find something different too. And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, this isn't working. How can we trigger like this response in a different way too? So maybe we need to stand up. Maybe you need to be placed differently. Um, yeah, I mean, it's thinking on the fly. And that's where, like I said, coaching kind of comes back into it. It's like, all right, how do we modify this? How can we, like, there's a disconnect. Let's go. Like, let's figure this out. So, and it's just talking to them, and it's just like, and I tell them constantly, like, hey, all right, let's figure this out together. And talking through, what are you feeling? What are you not feeling? Where are you at? Like, it's constant communication. So,
Yeah, I love that idea of, the coach or sort of the expert and then the person who's trying to get the treatment or get better, because they'll come in and just say like, man, my shoulder is really bugging me or my back is really bugging me. And now it's your job to kind of go figure out what's going on, what muscle might be causing that. And then when you find it, there might be some of that pain associated with it. So like, all right, let's check out some different positions. Let's work on some breathing. We've got all these different ways we can try and help somebody through it, because we know on the other side of it, they're probably going to feel a lot better. But in the moment, it might be a little uncomfortable. And it's one of those things we see a lot of in our classes, anyways. That discomfort during the workout can lead to some of those benefits we're looking to experience after the fact. So sometimes we
Yeah.
have to be willing to go to those difficult, uncomfortable spots to get
Mm-hmm.
some of that on the backside. And I could tell that you love coaching, you love body work and working with folks. So talk to us a little bit about what gets you most excited as a practitioner, whether that's on the coaching side, whether that's on the body work side. What are some of the things that really motivate you or get you excited to get up and get to work each day?
I mean, I think it's kind of the same thing for both, and it's watching people achieve potential they didn't think that they could achieve. And that goes between both, right? So say you come in like bodywork side and you're just like, my shoulder, it is just like, it has been months, it's been years, and it just doesn't move right. And it's frustrating. And you kind of, you feel out like what they've tried to do to help it, yada yada, all this stuff. Or they've had surgery and been told like, yeah, I'm told I can't ever lift this heavy again, or move it back here, or squat this low, or anything. They've been told that by doctors or whatever, and then it's just like, cool, we're gonna get you moving, and it's just like I love giving people the ability to see their potential, and that they're not done. They're not stuck in this place forever. There's ways you can make this work. There's ways you can reach a stimulus again, get that stuff moving. And it's the same with coaching. Like, my favorite is when people come in and say, "Oh, there's no way I can do that." And my favorite thing is like, yeah. And it's constantly just coming back and just being like, you freaking did that. Like, I'm so freaking excited for you. You did that. Like, and you kept sitting here saying you couldn't. And even if it's just step by step of like, yesterday you couldn't even like hold on to the bar that long or whatever, and it's just like, but today you did it. Like, you held on to the rig for 20 seconds, and yesterday it was 10. Like, it's just, it's taking the tiny things and showing them like, it's the small tiny things that make these big exciting things, and you did it. Like, you're capable, and it's exciting. I don't know, that gets me
I know
pumped.
that I would agree. The excitement, I can see it, we can feel it from you of watching somebody do something that either A, they didn't think they could do, or never thought they'd be able to do. And what was interesting there is it starts with the language, how we talk to ourselves. And I love that you said you catch athletes when they say, I could never do that, I can't do that, I should be able to do this, whatever it might be. And you catch them and you switch it, like add the word yet, or working towards it, or making progress. So the way we talk to ourselves has a huge impact on the way we're able to show up, the way we're able to
Yeah,
progress. And then having that encouragement, having that coaching, having somebody who's supportive, it makes it so much more fun and so much more enjoyable. I'm curious
yeah,
if you have some instances of that in your own life, because I feel like as coaches, there's different points in time where we've experienced that. And then
for
it was
sure.
such a cool feeling that we want to help others experience that as well. So you mentioned that you started CrossFit, over 10 years ago. Was that one of those sort of pivotal moments, or were there other times where you're like, man, achieving something you didn't think you could do is super cool. Now I want to see if I can share and spread this and help others achieve the same.
Snatching, mother
Mm,
freaking snatching. The first gym that I was at, the one coach, it was a little harder with him. We didn't click, really struggled, and I would skip snatches. I would cry every single day we had snatches because it was just never a good experience. And when I switched gyms, the one coach and owner at the time, he dumbed it down. He broke it down, and he was calm. He was all of this, and I was like, this doesn't have to be a bad thing. And like, all of a sudden, I mean, I could never get past 60 pounds on a snatch. And then we just worked on it a little bit, tweaked a few things. And then all of a sudden, 75 pounds went up. And I literally am holding up the bar and I'm like, oh my God, I did it! Like, jumping with the bar in my hands. I'm like, I did it. So, you know, I could have obviously lifted more, but I was
Hmm.
stoked in that moment. And it was just like, it's taking the time. It's like it's that self talk. It's just those little things. And so from there, like, I loved it. And I always want people to talk good to themselves. And that, like, I think sometimes that comes from a projection too, of times when I'm not feeling great about myself. More than anything, I want other people, like, to know, like, they're freaking worth it. They're awesome. They are capable. Because sometimes I don't feel like that. So I'm like, let me put that out there, and maybe, like, that can
Hmm.
kind of come back to me a little bit.
Hmm.
And so I feel like the snatching for me was like one of those things. And it's like somebody took the time, somebody thought that I was worth it, somebody thought that I was capable. And I loved that moment. That is still one of the most pivotal moments. And that was probably like 2014 when that happened, 2015. Um, and I don't know, I just loved it. I loved that energy, and CrossFit always has that energy, you know? That community just has that.
Yeah, it's amazing because it has CrossFit inherently has this sort of you're never there type of approach because there's always another weight to lift, there's always a new movement to learn, a new skill to develop. So there's always these opportunities to challenge ourselves and push us forward to test something out and see if I can lift a little more or learn this new movement. And for you, the idea of learning the snatch was like the light bulb of like, wow, like I can learn how to do that. There's probably a lot of other cool things I can figure out, but it was helped by a coach who took some time to give you some cues, give you some technique, figure out how you think about snatching, how it might be better, more efficient. And so, taking those experiences you had and now applying them as a coach, I can get a sense that like those little tiny wins make you fired up, and it makes the athletes get fired up too, because you've probably seen or experienced it where they come in and they do something. They're like, well, it's not that big of a deal because, Sally over there is lifting way more than me, or, this person over here is doing toes to bar and I can't do that. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
We got to catch them when they're saying
Hold
that.
up.
Yeah. What do you like to do in those moments? Because it's something that I get really passionate about, language and mindset. And you'll hear me call people out in our gym whenever they throw some words around that are not allowed in our gym. But what do you like to do in those moments when you catch people in the way they talk to themselves and it's not as supportive or encouraging as we'd like it to be?
Mm, I love this question. There's so many different avenues that you can go down, right? So, one of my ultimate go tos. So, when they are having that self doubt, when they are having that not so great day, like, they're not into it, and they're just, yeah, that negative self talk of like, well, I couldn't even do that today. Like, I was doing it last week, but like, whatever. And I'm like, my very first thing that, like, I stop them and I'm just like, hey, what did you do today? And it always confuses them. But some of my athletes now know how to answer that. I'll be like, what did you do today? And they'll be like, because they think in their head they've done nothing. I was like, you showed up today. And I'm so freaking glad that you did. I'm so happy that you're here. You moved your body. And even though it wasn't your best day, you still showed up. You did that for yourself. Thank you. It's the first thing that comes out of my mouth. It fires me up because I just love that you're here. Love that you showed up. Thank you. That is so important because it's not for anybody else, and it's trying to take out those words of I'm proud of you. It's just thank you. I'm happy. I'm happy you did that for you, and constantly getting that in their head of this is for you. This is for nobody else. At the end of the day, this is for you. Then when it comes to the comparison, it's like, okay, cool. So if that's what you want to achieve, so so and so is doing toast bar. What's our plan? Like, how can we work on this together to get you to this point where you're doing that too? Because you still achieved something great. Did you get a good workout? Awesome. I love that for you. What did you accomplish today? I love that. That is like my bread and butter. I just want people to talk good to themselves.
I 100% agree. It's funny because that's kind of been in some way, shape, or form what I feel like is my lifelong career of like figuring that out as well. And how do we do that? And one of the things you said there that's so important is to not only acknowledge, but also experience a little bit of gratitude for some of those things we can do. because so many times
Mhm.
we focus on what we can't do, where we're not yet, or where we want to be, rather than like take a moment of like, where am I right now? And can I be happy and grateful for that? The ability to walk in the door, to be able to do the things I'm doing, to be in a community and with an environment I'm with. Like start there, then we can start thinking about, oh, where would I like to be? How do I get there? The path that I'm going to take with my coach. But if we can start with the acceptance and the gratitude, it's amazing how many things start falling into place of like, I get to be here today. I'm excited that I can move my body. I'm
Mhm.
excited that I'm maybe a little bit sore from yesterday because I challenged myself in a way that
Yeah.
I didn't know I could do. And now I'm experiencing some of the after effects of that, but like that is so cool. And it's funny because it is just that mindset shift. And sometimes it's got to be from an outside source, a coach, a friend, somebody
Mhm.
else to catch you saying it, and then be like, hey, I heard you say can't or should or shouldn't or this or that. Can we flip that? And
Yeah.
as a coach, taking the time to actually do that for your athletes makes a world of difference, not just for the hour they're there, but in the other 23 hours.
Exactly. And I think it just comes back to it's constantly the small things, it's the little things that have the best impact. And it's the repetition of it too, right? Like, and like you said, it's in the other 23 hours of their day, they're going to start saying it maybe a little bit more because they're hearing it constantly in that 1 hour a day that they're at class. And even if it's not directly to them, they overhear it being said to somebody else within the gym as well, you know? So it's the little things they count. And it's for you, like as a coach, and even like for me and like body work, like it's showing up and it's constantly telling them like, hey, we got this. If you need help with this, I'm here. I got you. Let's figure this out together. Because it's not easy to do things alone. The more you find yourself alone, like I don't want to say you fail, but it makes life a lot tougher when it could be, so much easier and so
Hmm.
much better, so much more fulfilling too. Like I don't know. It's little things. I love the little things.
Yeah, I
Mm,
get the sense that the community you are a part of at the gym, the community you're building with your line of work, focusing on the small things, the relationships, the way that we see progress gets people excited, gets them to want to interact and work with you. And so you mentioned that you started Free to Move Bodywork just about a year ago, and
yeah.
that was nerve wracking and obviously takes some confidence. So walk us through what gave you the confidence or the ability to step out and try this and go for it in some way, shape, or form. What was that process like for you?
It was a lot of honesty within myself, a lot of talking to myself about where are you? What what is good for you? And what can you achieve? What do you want to achieve? And it was hard. I wasn't in a good mental state to be honest, but it was a point where it's like I need to be doing something for me. Like that much I could recognize, right? I was dealing heavily with depression and anxiety like this time last year, very very badly. And it was just constantly like, okay, it's time for me. Like how can I know that there's things that I can achieve. And it's constantly helping others achieve things too. And so it's just like, I wanted people, I don't know, I wanted to do it for me. And I had to be truthful. I had to be honest. But I still want to keep doing the same thing. I still loved working with people. I loved working to help them feel better, whatever it was. But yeah, it was just being truthful, I guess, within myself of where I needed to be in life. And that's
Yeah,
hard.
it's hard to be vulnerable and to be honest and to in the midst of experiencing depression and anxiety to like figure out how do I navigate this and how do I move forward, because when you are experiencing those things it can really feel like you're stuck, like this is where I'm at, this is how it's going to be, and I don't know where to go from here. So to still have the ability to see forward enough to be like, this is a step that I want to take and is going to be good for me. And I think it's going to challenge me and I think it's going to push me. And I
Yeah.
want to walk into that. That takes a lot of courage. And I'm curious if there's, something that helped sort of push you to have the courage and to have the confidence to do that. Is it like the community that was around you? Was it like significant others? Was it like friends or whatnot? Because I think a lot of us struggle with the ability to take that big step, or walk into a gym for the first time, or leave a job that we really don't like anymore, or whatever that might be. And so I'm just kind of curious if there's something that you experienced or helped you to take that sort of courageous step.
I mean, I definitely think it was community at the end of the day. Like I was I was with myology from the start of my career, right? And it was hard to step away from the comfort of all of that, and I appreciated every single second of being with that company, right? But stepping away, I mean, knowing that I still had my community who backed me. My cat might jump up here in a second. Who are just like, yeah, no matter what, like we're here, we've got you. Like it's so fearful because it's like, what if I lose everybody, everything? Like it makes you question, like, do they? Excuse me. Like, do they like me? Do you like me as a person? Do you like me as a therapist? And so it was just kind of like, yes, having that motivation from others to just be like, just do it. Like it's what you need to do. Like I had to do it for myself. It was time, and the I work within a chiropractor's office, and he was just like, no matter what you want to do, I got you. Like you're here, you're good. This is where you're gonna be, no matter what. I don't care what you do. And it was just finally of like, I felt like I was gonna start moving into a new stage of life soon, and so I was just like, you know what? Let's make it all new. Let's mess it up. Let's get crazy. And so that's just what it was. So yeah, I mean, it's 1,000% community. It's that reassurance from those that have been around me for the last 6 years. Um, so it's tough, but it's sometimes for me, I'm the biggest person. Even when I'm in like my lowest lows, I'm always somebody who has to shake things up, like because it's just like, all right, oh, like it's like literally just like shaking off, shaking off. Okay, okay, okay. We need to get this different. We need to make this different. What do we do? Do something crazy. Like let's do something. And it's like, at some points that was thought out, but it's just like some change just has to come
Hmm.
somehow.
Hmm.
And if you don't just jump, you ain't gonna do shit. Like it's just not gonna happen. And so it's just, it's all or nothing sometimes,
Mm.
and you just gotta do it.
Yeah.
It's scary.
One of the things you said there that I think resonates a lot with me is the idea of community and how surrounding yourself with other people who either care about you, believe in you, want to see you be successful, it helps push us and drive us forward to do the uncomfortable things, to make the jump, or to see what can I possibly do. So having that community around you, whether it's the client base that you had, whether it's those friends, the folks you built relationships with, that's always super helpful. And to have somebody tell you, like, hey, I got you, regardless of how this pans out, that can be one of those major, major reasons why we do the tough thing or make the
Yeah.
decisions that we do. So it sounds like you had that, which is awesome. And then for some of us, yeah, a big shakeup, a big change is helpful. Sometimes we want to make those small, little baby incremental steps. And sometimes it's like, you know what? Let's just jump in the deep end and figure
Go.
out how to swim while we're there. And if that works for you, I think that's also a really cool and powerful strategy, especially when you're surrounded by other people. So, a year into business now, tell us a little bit about what that has been like. Because I imagine, as someone in a very similar situation, there's the highs, there's the lows, there's everything in between. So, tell us a little bit about what the last year has been like as your own business owner.
I mean, it was, I don't know, like it's been great. Like I really don't know. Like I wouldn't even really say there's been anything bad. It's different for sure, like having to navigate what being fully responsible for yourself is like. But I'm gratefully responsible for just me and nobody else. Like as a business owner, I don't have any employees. I don't have anything like that. But it's getting to grow my brand and I don't know, just still every day just getting to show up for people, like getting to connect with people and I don't know, like right now there haven't been any lows. I really can't speak to that. Like I said, I'm not on a grander scale. Um, but I'm happy. Like I'm very content and it doesn't mean that I'm complacent. I'm not because there's definitely plenty of other things that I've got on the horizon coming up this year. Um, but I don't know. It's been good. It's been really good and it feels good to say that.
I love when people bet on themselves and take the risk and see how things are going to pan out. And it goes the way they liked it to go, or, is moving in that direction of like asking yourself the question of like, well, what if it turns out? Because
Mm-hmm.
everybody, when you're sitting there thinking about the decision, is like, well, what happens if it falls apart? What happens if I go belly up? What happens if it doesn't go the way I want? And it's like, it's easy to ask yourself those questions. Our brain goes into that defense mode, but like you said, like, what if it works out? Like, how cool is
Yeah,
that? And so for the last year, to experience some of the happiness that you've had, to see a brand grow, to be able to take care of yourself, it sounds like, you're in a really good spot, maybe even compared to where you were within your personal life a year ago. And the job, the community, everything else is helping propel you forward. And you mentioned that
definitely.
there's some exciting things on the horizon. So, what are the things that get you really excited when it comes to your brand and like where you want to take it and where you want to go?
Oh man. I mean, it's just accessibility, like making things more accessible to people and education. I think one of my favorite things within my company is constantly I want to educate people. And sometimes that goes like full nerd level. Like think ultimate, you're going to hear every part of the anatomy and you're going to be like, "What dinosaurs did you just name off to me because I don't understand a word you just said." But also like kind of dumbing it down, not dumbing it down, but bringing it down to a level where like people can understand it. And I think that's huge, really honing in on the mobility side of things. A big thing that I want to start pushing a lot more this year is like the virtual sessions. Like it's mobility, virtual mobility sessions. And like say you can't leave like the office all day or something like that, but you have like your hour lunch break. You can't make it over to see me, but this is killing you. Cool. Let's figure this out. Like we can find so many things to do to where you can help yourself. I want people to always be able to help themselves. I'm just an added bonus if you do get to come see me. That just it helps a little bit more. So there's I don't know. There's just so many exciting like I said, it comes down to education. It comes down to teaching people to help themselves and just constantly growing, being able to grow together. I don't know. I love people.
I get the sense too, and I can certainly see that helping others with education, with whether it's the virtual sessions, what's the in-person sessions, like figuring out ways to solve problems is something that you love doing. And I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the way that you educate people through social media and your page, and I love that you bring your own personal sense of humor and flair. And there's moments where it's like, okay, this is educational, and there's other moments where you're like, this is gonna make you laugh and it's gonna make you smile and hopefully you learn something along the way. So I'm a little curious when it comes to building your brand, when it comes to posting things on social media and putting together reels and putting together different educational content. Where do you get sort of the creativity and where does that come from? Because I think it's certainly been very, very successful in terms of educating, providing humor, giving people a look into how you operate and how you think. So tell us a little bit about how you go about, creating content and sharing with the world those things.
ADHD. No, but it honestly it's just you kind of scroll through, for me, like I scroll through Instagram, like I'll usually take like an hour or something in a day. And for about 30 minutes, I'll go through reels and I'll listen to different reels. I'll find what's trending, stuff like that. And then immediately like my brain goes into what's that woman with like the math equation that's all around her head? Like that's me. And I'm just like, ooh, I could do this with this and this. And it's just like, I don't know. My brain just goes insane. And I'm like, there are so many things I can do. But I always try and piece it apart. Like, how can I make this educational? Do I want to do like, so here's how I could make it funny. Here's how I can promote my brand. So it's usually putting three ideas to one sound, doing stuff like that. But it's also, for me, like it's showing people to just not, life is not so serious all the time. Like you can take things, you can make them funny, you can still promote yourself, you can still have a great time. Just but you can learn something too. And I always feel like you learn through humor. If it makes you laugh, it catches you a little bit better, and you want to hone in on that and be like, hold on, wait a second, but what is she actually doing here? Or
Hmm.
like for me, it's always going to come down to dancing. I'm somehow dancing in every single thing. I can't help myself, but that's who I am. And like that's the person that you're going to get in a session. We are going to be chatting it up. We are going to be laughing. We are going to be, we're going to be talking about some of the most off the wall things, kind of thing. But I want you to feel, I just want everybody to always come in and I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to feel safe. I want them, because it's such a vulnerable situation, right? In both body work and coaching. It's like every part of that is just, you're vulnerable. So how can I make you comfortable? If that means I need to make a fool of myself sometimes, cool, do that through and you'll see that through social media and stuff like that. So I don't know, it's just taking that time, listening to things, like bringing out all those ideas. What do I want to talk to people about this time, etc. So like it's just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I love that the personality, the creativity comes out, and you can get the sense that like this is a look into just how life is with Allison each day, and that grabs people's attention, but it also draws them in of like, oh, if this is what it's like to work with her, how she is, then I already have a sense of what it's going to be like when I go see her as a coach at class or to get some body work done. And it feels genuine, and it feels like, oh, we're building some kind of a relationship online, getting some education, understanding maybe I want to go work with her. So I think it's a really powerful tool to use because you get to reach a lot of eyeballs, and then it helps build some of those relationships too, which is always really helpful. I've always enjoyed seeing your social media, the laughs, the education. It's always really helpful. So definitely, I would say give Allison a follow, which we usually wait for the end to tell people where to go for that. But I feel like since we're here, we might as well share with folks if they wanted to follow you to catch up on all the humor and education, etc. Where would they go find you on Instagram?
It's F2M Bodywork.
Yep,
That is the
F2M Bodywork. So
that's
you
me.
mentioned that for you, bringing the humor, working out, working with people really fills your cup, brings a lot of joy to your day. I'm curious, what are some of the other practices, whether they're like your non negotiables or the things that you want to include in your day to day that help bring the best version of Allison to Free to Move or as a CrossFit coach? Because it's always interesting. We have so many options now, and it feels like everybody's doing everything. But it's like when you actually boil it down, like there's, for most folks, there's a couple things that are like, you know what, if I can get this in my day, or if I'm focused on this, like things tend to go better for me. So, what are some of those, whether they're habits, actions, behaviors for you that help bring the best version of you each day?
I think one of the biggest things has been, and I kind of touched on this earlier, is starting my day with truthfulness, like within myself. Um, so that's a daily check-in. It's a morning check-in, it's an afternoon check-in. Where are you at? How are you? What do you need for today? What do you need to be successful? And that for me changes day to day. So yes, I have habits. I don't know that they're really like, necessary within here, but it's a constant check-in. And I think that's where everything needs to start. right? Because if you're not being truthful with yourself, if you're always pushing your limits and you're over and you're done with, but you're like, but I have to do this, like it starts to mess with your brain chemistry. It starts to mess with your head. So it's for me, it's that's a non-negotiable. It is check in with who you are, where you are at, and meet yourself where you are at that day. And then question yourself. It's a constant thing of, you know, okay, how do I not stay in this state? Or how many days have I now been in this state where I don't want to get out of bed or something like that? What are you going to do different? How are you going to break this? Do you need help? Do you need to reach out to a friend? How do we get back into a routine? That kind of stuff. So for me, that just it comes all down to being honest. Talk to yourself. Where are you at? Because for me, fitness looked very different for these past like couple of years for me. And I wasn't honest with myself, and it kind of made my anxiety and depression worse. I kept thinking like, you're failing at this. How can you be a CrossFit coach and right now you're miserable in CrossFit? Because CrossFit wasn't making me feel good anymore. But it was that thing of like, well, if you don't do it, you're not good enough kind of thing. Um, and I really started to dial back, and it was like, you know what? Take everybody else out of the picture right now. What does Allison need? I needed to go ride a bike for 30 freaking miles today, and I felt better. And then it boosted me a little bit. Checked in the next day. What do you need today? You know what? I need to not do anything. I need a day where I just chill out. And I don't want to do anything. I can't do anything. Holy crap, I just felt better. Changing it day to day. Check in. I don't know. That for me is my biggest, I think, thing that comes to mind when it comes to all of this. That's my non-negotiable is be truthful.
Mm. I love the honesty, and I love the ability to be vulnerable with yourself of like, what do I need today, and not what everyone else thinks I need, or maybe even personally of just like, well, you're a CrossFit coach, so you need an hour of CrossFit today, or else you're not going to be living up to the standard that you're creating for yourself. So being truthful and honest with yourself in the morning, checking in again in the afternoon, and then figuring out what are the ways in which I can best take care of myself. Not what everyone else says, not what social media says, but for me personally, right here, right now. And I think more of us could benefit from that. I think it's good to go find information and find education on what are some things that do work in the space, but then to become so essentially a scientist on yourself, perform different experiments and test things out. What works for you? Is that great? Is that not great? And check in each day and like, that was awesome yesterday. Let's keep more of that going. This didn't work. I don't know why everyone says it's such a great thing to do. It didn't work for me. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Then don't worry about it. But I love that that is a strategy that you have to figure out where you're at and how best to move forward. As somebody who works with others with bodywork and coaching, I'm always curious to hear what your thoughts or opinions are on what you think others could potentially benefit from. Maybe it is the check in, like you just said, of how are you doing today, but from somebody who I would consider to be a movement specialist of how the body works and how it's supposed to work, what are things that you think people could either do, add in behaviors, habits that as a coach, as a bodywork specialist, could move the needle for people to help them be a little bit happier, healthier, more fulfilled?
It's probably going to be the simplest answer that might annoy the heck out of people. Breathe.
Mm.
Breathe. Because it's been shown, in our everyday life, like we take a lot of short breaths. We take a lot of short chest breaths, and we get tired by a certain time of day. We're over it. Our brains are bored. Then we sit there and we just scroll and all of this stuff. But just taking the time to get some like oxygen to your brain, all that. I love telling people take just 5 minutes. Do it at like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Set aside some time. If that needs to be a guided meditation for you, if that's just you taking your time, like you can silently meditate. I'm not somebody who can do that. Somebody needs to tell me what I'm doing. But just setting a time, 5 minutes is so minuscule in your day, so tiny. And when you take that time, it is insane what that can do for you. Absolutely insane. But it's taking time to breathe, but it's also just it's learning to pay attention to yourself. So I always hone in on breathing, but then I always hone in on pay attention to what you're doing in your day. So when it comes to the body work side of things, and even kind of within coaching, people are just like, no, like my body hurts this. When I did this workout yesterday, like it messed me up for today. And it's just like, was it your hour of movement that you were doing something good for your body, or was it where you sat for 8 hours in the same position, didn't really move, didn't really breathe, didn't do much of anything? Which one was it actually? And so it's just like paying attention. How are you sitting? How much are you moving within the day? How much are you changing up what you do in your day? I think those are my two biggest things. Is just pay attention to yourself and take a freaking breath and
I
drink water.
Yes, I absolutely love the breathe one because as someone who also very much appreciates breathing in a way that helps regulate our energy system, our stress levels, it's fascinating what the breath will tell you about what you're feeling, what your stress levels are at, how life is going for you that day. Just by paying attention to it and shifting or adjusting your breath can make a huge difference. So getting in some of those diaphragmatic big belly breaths sends the
Mm-hmm.
signal to the brain, hey, it's okay. We don't have to be so stressed right now. And you'll be surprised at how much it might relax you. And then just checking in, tuning in, seeing how you're feeling that each day. So those are really, really helpful, especially if you're on the table getting some body work, practicing different types of breath work will be amazing for maybe making the
Correct.
experience just a little more pleasant as you're
Well,
getting
and it
through it.
helps everything relax a lot more
Yeah.
because you don't realize like how much you're holding within your body. So people are always like, I hold my stress up here. And it's like, well, yeah, you're sitting like this. But if you also take the time to breathe and you stop pulling everything in here, relax into it. It's sure me working on that's going to suck, but why don't you breathe into it a little bit? Because now your brain is telling you, oh, okay, we're okay. We're okay. Okay. Like it's going to help the process go a lot faster, right? So it comes down to breathing in every aspect of your life.
It really does. The connection, brain, body, breath, it's all working in tandem. And if one of them has a signal that's sending to the others, whether it's, hey, throw the response on or calm it down, the rest tends to follow suit. And so, one
Mhm.
of the final questions I've got for you that I always love asking our guests, because I always think it's kind of fascinating to hear. But when you think about some of the principles, philosophy, standards, values that sort of guide or influence the way that you operate, the way that you think, the way that you interact with others, how you go about your day, are there certain things that come to mind? You know, for some folks, it's like a
Mm.
phrase that really stands out to them. For some, it's like these are my core values that like I really operate and work around. Or for some of them, it's kind of like here's just a philosophy that I've always gravitated
Mm.
towards or helps me. What are some of those for you that have really kind of guided and influenced the way that you operate, you work with others, and you go about your day?
Mm. That's tough. I don't know because I think it's of a for me, and this is a new state that I'm like kind of bringing myself into. I'm a helpful person, like we've kind of talked. I love helping others, and it's I always am like, what can I do for others? But the biggest kind of now added thing that I put that without compromising yourself. And I know that that kind of sounds selfish, but it's very easy as somebody who does body work and even coaching because you are giving your energy to people constantly. It's like how do I find that balance? And that's ultimately what it comes down to. It comes down to balance. So it's like, yes, I love, love, love helping people. I love being there. Um, but it's like, okay, how are you going to also protect yourself? How are you going to be okay within the day? How are you going to navigate today? What does that look like for you? That's a big one. And then, I mean, it's starting the day with positive self-talk. It's that check-in. It's that, I don't know, that's the kind of stuff that is very valuable to me, at least. Like, I'm not looking to achieve something freaking amazing every single day. Like, that's not, I don't think that that's doable every single day. So it's giving grace within yourself. That's huge for me as well. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. That's a hard one because I don't know.
That's
I
why we
don't
save it.
know.
That's why we save it for the last one. Kind of warm people up to the conversation, and then see where they go with that one. But the things that I heard for you was helpfulness. That's a huge piece of who you are and what you like to do.
Yeah.
If you want to use the term balance, but finding the right balance of pushing and working with others, and then making sure I'm taking care of myself. And then the last one, I would most likely categorize that as optimism. Of I like to figure out how can I talk to myself in a way that's encouraging, it's supportive, it's pushing me forward. So that positive
Mm-hmm.
self-talk is really helpful too. So this idea of service, this idea of balance, and this idea of optimism for you are really some of the big key components to who you are and how you operate. So
Yeah.
want to say thank you for taking some time to chat with me today. I loved diving into some of the different topics we got into, from how you think about body work to working with others as a coach to stepping out and having the courage to start your own business and what that looks like. So we already heard, for those that want to connect with you on Instagram, where to do that. But if anyone else is out there and they're interested of connecting with you to maybe engage in some virtual sessions or figure out if you're close by to them, what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you?
Honestly, Instagram's probably the easiest. That's where I shoot everybody all the time. So once again, that's at F2M Bodywork. Yeah, that's always probably the quickest and easiest way. Just little button right there, message. And no matter what, like, I love talking to people. So it's like, even if you have just a small question, like, hit me with it. Like, I'd love to talk about it. So let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thanks so much for not only taking some time today, but also for connecting, taking care of me down at Fitness of the Coast. It was greatly appreciated to find ways to move a little bit better, especially over the
Yeah,
course of a competitive weekend. So thank you for that. And I look forward to the next
absolutely.
opportunity we have to connect in person.
I know, I'm excited. This is once again like one of the things that CrossFit and bodywork all in one have brought together, which is, really awesome friendships and connections like this. I mean, it was really exciting to get to do this. So thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.